What is up, everyone? We're on day 81 of our Bible in a Year series, continuing on in 1 Samuel. Interesting stories today, and we won't waste any time. We'll jump straight in. I will say that we're reading out of the CSB. If you're interested, um, you can read along. I'll have it on the screen. If you have one, you can read along. And if you're interested in getting one, if you would like this translation from what you've seen, you can check the description. I have a link to the CSB Apologetics Study Bible, and also have a link to a video reviewing that Bible if you're interested. So, without any further ado, 1 Samuel 4. And Samuel's words came to all Israel. Israel went out to meet the Philistines in battle and camped at Ebenezer, while the Philistines camped at Aphek. Aphek. The Philistines lined up in battle formation against Israel, and as the battle intensified, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who struck down about 4,000 men on the battlefield. When the troops returned to the camp, the elders of Israel asked, "Why did the Lord defeat us today before the Philistines? Let's break the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh." Or bring, that would be quite a different story. Let's bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh. Then it will go with us and save us from our enemies. So the people sent men to Shiloh to bring the covenant of the Lord of armies, who is enthroned between the cherubim. Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. When the ark of the covenant of the Lord entered the camp, all the Israelites raised such a loud shout that the ground shook. Now, this isn't just a random thought, right? There is some precedence to this. I'm sure they've heard the stories of like Joshua and Jericho and some other instances like that. So I'm sure they are aware the ark was previously taken with them into battle. But the thing is, that's not what they're supposed to do now. They're going against God's will, trying to leverage God almost, twist God's arm. It's not good. It's really, really not good. Verse 6. The Philistines heard the sound of the war cry and asked, "What's this loud shout in the Hebrews' camp?" When the Philistines discovered the ark of the Lord had entered the camp, they panicked. A God has entered their camp. They said, "Woe to us! Nothing like this has happened before. Woe to us! Who will rescue us from these magnificent gods? These are the gods that slaughter the Egyptians with all kinds of plagues in the wilderness. Show some courage and be men, Philistines. Otherwise, you'll serve the Hebrews just as they served you. Now, be men and fight." Now, notice in the text here, when it's talking about the God here, it's lowercase. So they're not talking about Yahweh, or they don't realize they're talking about who they're talking about. Either way, they're not talking about Yahweh. Okay, verse 10. So the Philistines fought, and Israel was defeated, and each man fled to his tent. The slaughter was severe. 30,000 of the Israelite foot soldiers fell. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, died. That same day, a Benjaminite man ran from the battle and came to Shiloh. His clothes were torn, and there was dirt on his head. When he arrived, there was Eli sitting on his chair beside the road waiting, because he was anxious about the ark of God. When the man entered the city to give a report, the entire city cried out. Eli heard the outcry and asked, "Why this commotion?" The man quickly came and reported to Eli. At that time, Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes didn't move because he couldn't see. The man said to Eli, I'm the one who came from the battle. I fled from there today." "What happened, my son?" Eli asked. The messenger answered, "Israel has fled from the Philistines, and also there is a great slaughter among the people. Your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are both dead. and the ark of God has been captured." When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell back off the chair by the city gate, and since he was old and heavy, his neck broke and he died. Eli had judged Israel for 40 years. This is, remember the prophecy that Samuel gave, right? He talks about their death. A consequence of not listening to God, for sure. Even not dealing with what God had, something that he knew was wrong, that he knew needed to be dealt with. He told his sons they were acting in a not good way, but he just didn't actually do anything about it. Okay, verse 19. Eli's daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant and about to give birth. When she heard the news about the capture of God's ark and the deaths of her father-in-law and her husband, she collapsed and gave birth because her labor pains came on her. As she was dying, the woman taking care of her said, "Don't be afraid, you've given birth to a son." But she did not respond or pay attention. She named the boy Ichabod, saying, "The glory has departed from Israel," referring to the capture of the ark of God. The ark of God, I don't know why I keep saying that. And to the deaths of her father-in-law and her husband. "The glory has departed from Israel," she said, "because the ark of God has been captured." Chapter 5. After the Philistines had captured the ark of God, they took it from Ebenezer to Ashdod, brought it into the temple of Dagon, and placed it next to his statue. Now, this is kind of I'll say a cool story, right? So the Philistines capture the Ark of the Covenant, and they're setting it in their holy place where they keep other things like this. When the people of, verse 3, when the people of Ashdod got up early the next morning, there was Dagon, fallen with his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. So they took Dagon and returned him to his place. When they got up early the next morning, there was Dagon, fallen with his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. This time, Dagon's head and both his hands were broken off and lying on the threshold. Only Dagon's torso remained. That is why, still today, the priests of Dagon and everyone who enters the temple of Dagon in Ashdod do not sleep on Dagon's threshold. The Lord's hand was heavy on the people of Ashdod. He terrified the people of Ashdod and its territory and afflicted them with tumors. When the people of Ashdod saw what was happening, they said, "The ark of Israel's God must not stay here with us, because his hand is strongly against us and our God Dagon." So they called to the Philistine rulers together and asked, I lost my spot. "What should we do with the ark of Israel's God?" "The ark of Israel's God should be moved to Gath," they replied. So they moved the ark of Israel's God. After they had moved it, the Lord's hand was against the city of Gath, causing great panic. He afflicted the people of the city, from the youngest to the oldest, with an outbreak of tumors. The people of Gath then sent the ark of God to Ekron. But when it got there, the Ekronites cried out, "They've moved the ark of Israel's God to us to kill us and our people." The Ekronites called the Philistine rulers together. They said, "Send the ark of Israel's God away. Let it turn to its place so it won't kill us or our people." For the year of death pervaded the city, and God's hand was oppressing them. Those who did not die were afflicted with tumors, and the outcry of the city went up to heaven. Real quick on what we just read. It's funny to me that they set up the ark with these other gods, and even the other gods, Dagon specifically is named, can't stand up, keep falling down. Okay, chapter 6. When the ark of the Lord had been in Philistine territory for 7 months, the Philistines summoned the priests and the diviners and pleaded, "What should we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us how we can send it back to its place. They replied, if you send the ark of Israel's God away, do not send it without an offering. Send back a guilt offering to him, and you will be healed. Then the reason his hand hasn't been removed from you will be revealed. They asked, what guilt offering should we send back to him? And they answered, 5 gold tumors and 5 gold mice, corresponding with the number of Philistine rulers. Since there has been plague for both you and your rulers. Make images of tumors and of your mice that are destroying the land. Give glory to Israel's God, and perhaps he will stop oppressing you, your gods, and your land. Why harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened theirs? When he afflicted them, didn't they send Israel away, and Israel left? Now, this happened quite a bit previously, but and this happened away from here. The word's gotten out. People know what happened to the Egyptians. Now then, prepare 1 new cart and 2 milk cows that have never been yoked. Hitch the cows to the cart, but take their calves away and pin them up. Take the ark of the Lord, place them in the cart, and put the gold objects that you're sending him as a guilt offering in a box. Beside the ark, send it off and let it go its way. Then watch if it goes up the road to its homeland toward Beth Shemesh. It is the Lord who has made the terrible trouble for us. However, if it doesn't, we will know that it is not his hand that punished us. It was just something that happened to us by chance. The men did this. They took 2 milk cows, hitched them to the cart, and confined their calves in the pen. When they put the ark of the Lord on the cart, along with the box containing gold mice and the images of their tumors, the cows went straight up the road to Beth Shemesh. They stayed on that one highway, lowing as they went. They never strayed to the right or to the left. The Philistine rulers were walking behind them to the territory of Beth Shemesh. The people of Beth Shemesh were harvesting wheat in the valley, and when they looked up and saw the ark, they were overjoyed to see it. The cart came to the field of Joshua on Beth Shemesh and stopped there near a large rock. The people of the city chopped up the cart and offered the cows as burnt offering to the Lord. The Levites removed the ark of the Lord, along with the box containing the gold objects, and placed them on the large rock that day. The people of Beth Shemesh offered burnt offerings and made sacrifices to the Lord. When the 5 Philistine rulers observed this, they returned to Ekron that same day. So again, interesting. These other leaders are offering sacrifices to God. This is not Israelites doing. Verse 17. As a guilt offering to the Lord, the Philistines had sent back 1 gold tumor for each city: Ashdod, Gaza, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The number of gold mice also corresponded to the number of Philistine cities of the 5 rulers, the fortified cities, and the outlying villages. The large rock on which the Ark of the Covenant was placed is still in the field of Joshua, Beth Shemesh today. God struck down the people of Beth Shemesh because they looked inside the ark of the Lord. He struck down 70 persons. The people mourned because the Lord struck them with a great slaughter. The people of Beth Shemesh asked, who is able to stand in the presence of the Lord, this holy God? To whom should the ark go from here? They sent messengers to the residents of Kiriath Jearim, saying, the Philistines have returned the ark of the Lord. Come down and get it. Okay. Simple, quick reading today. So the reading is done, but we do have our 3 questions, and jump straight into those. Question 1. Israel uses the ark like a lucky charm in chapter 4 and loses it. How do we sometimes risk treating God as a means to an end rather than the holy king that he is? So I've seen this the most, for me anyways, the most that I've seen this, I think, is with the. It always sounds like you're ragging on them. I'm really not trying to. This is just where most of my experience is. So the examples I have are going to probably most likely be from this group, but this is from the Pentecostal charismatic movement. The idea of treating God is just a genie to grant you your wish and to give you these gifts. They elevate the gifts to the level of the giver, and they're no longer pursuing God, they're pursuing what they can get from God. That's not good. That's really, really, really bad. Okay. Question 2. The Philistines faced plagues and panic in chapter 5. What does this show us about God's power, even over those who don't acknowledge Him? God ultimately has ultimate authority over everyone and anyone. So there will be a day where everyone bows down to God. There won't be a yelling and screaming. I think the people that and this you may disagree depending on your view of hell, but I think the people that are in hell will see it as justified. They will understand because they'll be able to look back and see all the ways that God showed Himself in their life, and they still rejected Him. They're not going to be happy. They're going to be mad. They'll be mad at themselves because they rejected God. He made it clear to them. So one day, everyone's going to bow. I don't think it's a stretch to say that God can do the same today if He decides to step out and do that with a people group. And He's done that. Question 3. The Ark's return in chapter 6 comes with both celebration and judgment. How can we cultivate a deeper reverence for God's presence in our lives? Prayer, reading your Bible, trying to be in daily communion, I guess, with God. Not necessarily like taking communion, but just like in close relationship every day with God, I think is a big one. A lot of people miss that. A lot of people don't do that. And I think that is definitely something that helps with that. Also understanding that God's judgment is good and holy. And sometimes we get disciplined as children of God, and that's a good thing. Believe is in Proverbs, says the Lord disciplines those who He loves. So if He didn't love us, He wouldn't be trying to correct our path. So that is it for today. I appreciate everyone watching and listening up to this point. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I love hearing from people. I would love to hear from you. You can put your answers in the comment, or if there's something you think I got wrong or I need to possibly change, or something that I could do better, or maybe something I hadn't thought of that I didn't bring up, you can put that in the comments as well. I'd love to hear that. Beyond that, word of mouth is the best way the podcast spreads. So if this has been a blessing to you, please consider sharing it with other people. It can be a blessing to them as well. We can continue to grow. And don't forget to come back tomorrow. We're going to be in 1 Samuel 7 through 9, I believe. So we'll be jumping back in there. Thanks. God bless.